It's been such an honor to be here today and yesterday to see to hear the presentations on these community collections. I'm really touched by how much this is at the core of our work, and 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 this amazing collaboration between community and Library of Congress resources just really strengthens it and makes it even more powerful. And as a way, I think, to ensure that the stories of these communities are not erased. I feel like it's just been an amazing, powerful experience for me to see that. So, I have the pleasure of introducing the two presenters for this session. First is Dr. Tammy Greer. Dr. Greer is a citizen of the Uninahoma Nation and associate professor of psychology and director of the Center for American Indian Research and Studies at the University of Southern Mississippi. She is the recipient of the Humanities Educator Award from the Mississippi Humanities Council. And in 2022, she was awarded a community collections grant for the project. And we are still here, stories of resilience and sustainability from homoculture bearers in Louisiana. So while I was doing a little bit of research about Dr. Greer for this gathering, I came across this quote that I really want to share with you. She says, "Dyeing cloth with native plants is not so straightforward. Cellulose fibers do not open themselves to the colors produced by other plants. There needs to be a mordant, a middle step, something that transforms the fibers from resisting to accepting the color. Oftentimes, as a tribal member and also an academic, I play the role of that mordant." I just love that. So please welcome Dr. Tammy Greer.
This morning when I was waking up, my graduate student sent me an email, and she has a presentation today as well, of course. And of course, I need to look at it before she presents. So at 6:30 in the morning, I was looking at her presentation, and it's about imposter syndrome. So feeling like you are not qualified to be wherever it is you are. And I resonate with that because when Miss Janie sent me this grant from, I guess Maida Owens must have sent it to her, and that the Library of Congress was doing this work, and Miss Janie was like, "Yeah, let's go for it. Let's do it." And I thought, "Miss Janie, we don't have a chance." I didn't say it, but I thought, "Miss Janie, we don't have a chance. We don't have anybody like that. We don't have any ethnographers, we don't have anybody. We don't even have the equipment to do it, Miss Janie." But I didn't say it because Miss Janie's an elder and she's really wise. Truly she is. And I thought, well, we won't get it, but we'll go for it. We'll go for it. I'll give it my best shot. We'll go for it. And so we started the process, and Miss Janie was involved, and I got Monique on board, Monique Brett, and I got my son on board. Um, and then this happened. This is Miss Janie talking to me. The due date was in September, and on August 30th, Miss Janie wrote me and said, "I've pretty much lost my house. Not only my house, my mother's house. My daughter lost her house. Um, at least we know what's going on now." And I thought, well, okay. So I don't know whether you know, but our people down in South Louisiana, we live at the end of the earth. And that's where we ended up after all the shifting of the tribes out to Oklahoma. We went down the river. And the end of the earth is a beautiful place to live. It has everything you need to survive without anything being brought in, all the food and all the medicine and all the everything you need. But the end of the earth is dangerous and the water is rising. And we don't know how this is going to affect our tribe. We don't know how a tribe survives this, how our traditions are going to be able to survive this. We don't know how this is going to affect our families. This is Hurricane Ida. Even the young ones are moving to higher ground, to safer spaces, and families are being scattered. Even our families are splitting up and being scattered. But we've moved before. This is in 1600. We were around Alexandria, and we believe that our tribe comes from the Shakshihoma, which were up in Mississippi between the Choctaw and the Chickasaw. We ended up in at the end of the earth because we were trying to survive. We were in the swamps, hiding out, laying low, being quiet. And now the earth is giving way and the water's rising. And most of the scientists say that we're going to have to move again. There are 17,000 of us who will have to move again. How do you keep 17,000 tribal members together and move somewhere? And if we scatter to the four winds, how are we going to remember our traditions? This is our half hitch coil palmetto basket. We lost this tradition. This tradition, we call it, went to sleep. And a man from the Denver Museum brought it back. And Miss Janie actually took it up and has shared it and reinvigorated it in our tribe. But how is it that that's going to survive? And how will we remember this ancient cordage technique? We forgot our cordage tradition. But when I was doing this grant, I started videoing this, and then I found a place where the Bayou Lacombe natives were using this style of plaiting for cordage. We use it for basket making, but it is actually an ancient cordage technique that we forgot about that it was cordage and remembered as I was doing this grant. And who's going to be around to teach us? That right there is Miss Janie. She was in the grant, and Miss Zoe, she was also in the grant. And will our palmetto even survive so that we can continue to build these palmetto huts like what my great grandmother lived in out in the woods? When you put that out in the woods, you're pretty much, you have a blind going on. Nobody notices that you're even there. She lived out there with her whole family. There were two of these, one for cooking and one for sleeping. And who's going to be there to teach the young ones to make the willow dome that supports the palmetto for the palmetto hut? So many of our traditions already, even our language, is having to be revitalized because it went to sleep. So is this going to go to sleep as well? And will our black willow, who is a precursor to aspirin, her inner bark is a precursor to aspirin. Not only that, she has in her leaves a growth inhibitor, and in her stems a growth stimulator. She's like bipolar on it. She can do it all. And as a matter of fact, when we plant these willow trees into the ground, half of them start growing. Yeah. Who's going to remember that about our black willow? And this Spanish moss, it has to be cured before it can be used, and that's a long process. It also has to be cleaned, and that also is a long process. Before we can make these Spanish moss dolls, or bed stuffing, or car seat stuffing, it used to be, or cordage, or you can use the tea to treat your fever. And who's going to be around to pass all that knowledge on? And how are we going to remember where we came from and why lots of our kids are first generation college students and why we don't have that generational wealth? We don't have homes to pass on. And it looks like we're not even going to have these homes that we bought and paid for to pass on to our children. That generational wealth that is so important to help our kids get ahead.
Can you please tell us what your name is?
Leroy Adam Parfait.
And we're here in Homa. Are you originally from Homa?
Yes, do like.
Do not.
I was born and raised in Do-like.
Can you tell us about Huat? Just yeah, how would you describe it?
Described as the fishing village, and it's I mentioned Do-like, and sometimes you say, "Oh, I know that's way out there." I say, "Yeah, it's way out there," but you ever set up on Moonlight or Dawson? But it's the fishing village, and I like to say also that for years it's been one of the top three ports in the seafood ports in the house. My daddy's fish, all those fish, it's all he's ever done. Fish trap, and I've done some of it. Um, he's never driven a car, and my mom, But so raised mostly on the land, water, fish, because the land my grandpa had a huge garden. But I went to school at the Dew-like Indian Mission, the church, Methodist church had. We weren't allowed in the schools. And one day, the director went to King Tavoma, and at that time it was the police jury, now it's the council. And he said, "You're getting money for these kids down there, but you're not providing school." And they gave him pencils and papers thinking, that was good. But he went to Baton Rouge and talked with the people there, and they gave us our first Indian school across from the Do-like Indian Mission. And I believe that was 57. And we started school there. And after I finished there, the 8th grade, the parish finally gave us an Indian school here in Homa. It's right in Homa, a little section they call Deckville. So it was Deckville High School. And in 1962, me and 4 others of our people, Indian people, graduated. It was first Indian graduating class.
What was
And how are we going to remember this wattle and daub technique that we use to build this mud oven, but also that we use to insulate our homes, and also that we use to insulate these palmetto huts? And who is going to teach us? This is Mr. Kirby. He was part of the Library of Congress project. And who's going to teach us about cypress basket and about cypress trees? Most of our elder cypress trees are already gone. And elderberry blowguns, and how to use the leaves. You pound them, you wrap them up in some cloth, you wet the cloth, you put it on your head to relieve headaches and fever. If you drink the juice of the berries of the elderberry, that has an antiviral agent in it. It fights that COVID virus, the envelope viruses. And will our elderberry trees survive? Although elderberry grows like a weed, and I think elderberry is probably going to be around forever. And elderberry and those big cockroaches in the oak trees, we're not getting rid of them. And walnut carvings. But finding walnut is hard anymore. We are the people who can turn alligator garfish scales and some scouring rush, that's the stem, and some cattail leaves, that's the leafy part, into art, and then smoke and season and eat that alligator garfish, that's called tasso time, and then cook the cattail root like a potato, eat that too, and then clean the pot with a scouring rush bundle. And then we're going to take that garfish skull and give it to a medicine person to be used in ceremony. And we are the people who can turn a piece of driftwood and those alligator garfish scales into a war club.
When I But I said it's too late. This is not a healthy one like I want to pick y'all. I don't want it with stuff on it. See, like this one.
This is RJ Molinaire. He's in the Library of Congress project. And that's Monique, who was our interviewer, a tribal member.
Yeah. And you bite the top of the Greek pork.
Can we eat?
Yeah.
What's that? This looks like a nut.
Yeah, it is. It is. And it got a little green stem in the middle. They also have a membrane that you peel off. That's what makes it bitter. I got crab in hand, but I like the shore. What's the yamador, you know? Now they got a little green stem in it. You see a little green stem?
Yeah.
You don't want that. It's too small to open it.
Can't you like a pimple?
Yeah, try yourself. There you go. See? Yeah, it's a young one. They got a little green stem where you see right inside, that's a small one.
Yeah.
But they are. Hello. Whoa! When you light, that's a young one. But they got hollow in there. And it would be young. In other words, it's too young to pick. But I want to show y'all, this is hollow.
Who's going to help us remember all of this? This is an American lotus plant. These were the reasons for this project. We conducted 16 interviews, 10 process documentations. We had 2 dissemination events, and we conducted a final event at the Los Isleños Fiesta. And as important as all that is, what you just saw to our tribe as our traditions and to our youth to understand, what Miss Janie's about to say is even more important, because we needed this project because we needed for our elders to help us remember that no matter where we end up, no matter what, no matter about any of that, we need to stay in relationship with the rest of the natural world. We need to behave in an honorable way with these plants, with our palmetto, with our willow, with our Spanish moss, with our cypress, even with our cockroaches and our elderberry, and definitely with our garfish and American lotus. We need to hear these elders how to tell us how to have a proper relationship, how to continue to harvest in an honorable and a sustainable way. We need to be reminded about that so that we can live into the 7th generation, but also these plant brothers and sisters can live as well. Turn it up, I think. Can you turn it up back there?
Dana, I think she, so this is the palmetto heart. It's been, and I want to use the word separated because I heard one of our elders talk about it. I had delivered some palmetto hearts to some of the basket weavers, and the husband says, well, you know, I'm the one that takes it and in French, séparer, which means separate. And, you know, we say, you know, strip, but it's séparé. So it's, you know, to separate each part of the leaf. Now, I'm from Marais du Large, and where we harvested with my dad for Palmetto Hut building, those areas are gone now. And that had to do with the levee system that came in. And these were huge palmetto that we would harvest from. And from my dad, you know, I learned that you always leave, you know, some for the plant. You don't go in there and just destroy the plant, take all the beautiful leaves, you know, you leave that, you take 1 or 2 and then move on, you know, and Same thing with harvesting the heart. They grow two together, and you can see right in here is where the other one would be. Usually, when the stem's showing is where you go in and cut with your knife or machete, and leaving the other one that's not quite ready still coming up behind for the plant.
We were thinking of all that when we made teasers, some few minutes of these Library of Congress interviews, and I put them on Facebook and I put them on my YouTube channel so that our tribal members can see themselves, because they were so excited and they couldn't wait. And so we had to find a way to let them see themselves. We also made, let's see, where is it? I don't know. It's not working, Guha. We also made, it's hung up for some reason. Oh, we got it. We got it. We also made a banner 2 foot by 6 foot for each of the tribal members so that they could see themselves, so that we made one copy for them, one copy for the tribe, and one copy for me, so that when we go around and they set up somewhere selling their stuff or whatever, they have something to show that they were in this project, and also that elevates them. They all wanted the Library of Congress logo, so I asked Guha about it, and he got it for us. And these banners have been displayed at Indian camps and at Terrebonne Parish and Lafourche Parish, where our people are, at the schools during Native American Heritage Month. They'll display them the whole month. And the coolest thing about it is that these are the mamas and the papas and the aunts and the uncles of those children who were super proud now because, wow, their parent or their grandparent or their aunt or their uncle, my gosh, is in the Library of Congress. Well, not yet, Guha. They're waiting on something from you. Here they're being displayed at the Los Isleños Fiesta, our final event. And here they're being displayed at our powwow, our Southern Miss powwow. So they get around, these banners get around. And just for transparency's sake, this is what we received, and this is how we spent the money. I have the camera back there that I bought, one piece of equipment I bought, and I'm still using it all the time to continue to document my companions. And these were the deliverables. Oh yeah, look at Guha. See Guha over there. So here's the way I think about it. This being right here, this whooping crane, was almost extinct in the 1940s, went from tens of thousands to 40 in the 1940s. And in the 40s, they brought in a program to rehabilitate the whooping crane population. There were so many whooping cranes that were killed, and so many of the elders, now think about that, so many of the elders who didn't survive, that the whooping cranes that they had left up in Canada forgot their culture of migration. They quit migrating. They just hung out in Canada, which means that their physical activity levels of flying, their food diversity, their health was impacted by that. And so these scientists, dressed up all in white, got into a plane and made friendly with the whooping cranes. And then they launched that plane into the air during migration season. And the whooping cranes, who were friends with these white guys, followed them on the migration path, up and down, all the way to South Louisiana, South Texas. And then the white guys got back into the airplane and left, and the whooping cranes remembered their culture. What I'm saying to you is that what we're doing right now is this right here. We're not becoming natives by doing this. You're not becoming us, and we're not becoming, I'm for sure not whatever you call what I just did. But we're working together to get this culture mapped out so that our youth can do this right here one day, fly. Can I play this? It's only about, okay. I'm not gonna go over Guhai. You're the man. I
When I'm
can't.
pointing at myself, I'm saying the words. When I point to you, you repeat what I say. That's it. It's gonna be the easy way to do it.
This is at our final
I gotta be first. Yo. Now I know what a flat tire sounds like, man. That's good. Yo, hey, yo, hey, He yeah, he yeah, oh yo, hey yeah, hey yeah, hey na he yeah, hey na he yeah, Hawane, Ilona yeah, Hawane, Ilona yeah, Ilona yeah, yo way yeah, no way yeah, let's no chuma, let's no elane, have a miko chuma, have a miko here, yo way yeah, no way yeah, aha, 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 he yeah, he yeah, he yeah, he yeah. Okay. Wait. Aha.
We want you to know that we appreciate you so much for sponsoring our project. Thank you.
Wow. What a fabulous example of the priceless quality of these collections and the importance, the critical importance, I think, I'm reminded of the Sankofa notion of reach back in order to move forward. And I think our next presenter also does the same. Perhaps needs no introduction for those of you that were here yesterday, and especially if you were able to go to the concert last night. But Boots Lupanui is a researcher, writer, producer, and band leader, and a longtime professional musician and artist. Boots is descended from many generations of Kohala people and lives and works in that community. He founded the Kohala Mountain Boys solely to produce Kohala heirloom songs and documentary films, such as the ones that we were treated to yesterday. He's a professional portrait artist with an MFA from Academy of Art University and a gifted storyteller in multiple mediums. Boots was awarded a community collections grant in 2022 for the project Unearthing the Lost Songs of Kohala. His project documentation is now a collection in the AFC archives and is made available online, on the Library of Congress website. So as soon as we can get to the presentation, I was hoping I was stalling.
You were doing good. Where was right here? Okay.
At the concert last night here we are. I mean, I just was so moved by the very gentle beauty of the music, and so grateful to you, Boots, for the work that you're doing to save these heirloom songs. So please welcome Boots Lupanui.
Aloha. Good morning. Aloha kako. Thank you all for coming. And for those of you who came last night, we really appreciate you coming last night. It was nice to see the whole audience there and how people responded. It was gratifying for all of us. So thank you. It struck me. I'm glad that Tammy went before me because Tammy, we could just replay your presentation, and everything you talked about is happening in our home as well, which is a good foundation for why I did my project. Literally everything you talked about, the loss of the culture, the loss of the losing the memory of the things we do. For those of you who were at the concert last night, one of the fellows sitting next to me, uh, thank you, is a navigator, a master navigator. We had to relearn how to sail. Even our own brothers and sisters in Polynesia, some of them still knew, and they had to come and teach us what we should have known all along. And in that way, we share so much. Yesterday at lunch, Tam and I were talking, and as Indigenous people do all the time, we get to the heart of it when we start talking to each other. Conversations don't stay at the surface very long, but we talked about our origin stories and how we are all descended from the Star people. Your origin story is like ours, so I'm guessing probably from the same star, same neighborhood. And so I was struck by, while you were talking, how much of what you're going through, what your folks are going through, it was exactly what we're going through, and which is why I did this project in the first place. So, what I'm going to talk to you about today, because a lot of you saw me yesterday, you watched my film yesterday, you heard me last night. You guys you've had enough boots for a while. I'm sick of hearing me. So I know my wife is sick of hearing me.
Look at this. It's not. That's I'll just put it off.
Then yeah,
Unless you want to just put it.
that doesn't hello. This is right.
Okay.
Yeah, right there is good. Come on, try to get famous, man.
I know. I'm going.
So what I'm going to tell you is I'm going to talk about why I did this, what I did, and then I want to share a few stories that sort of highlight what was important about this project. So what I did, obviously, is I went looking for old and unrecorded songs in our area. There's so much culture. There's so much that you can't save it all. Not one person can do any of these things. So which is why it's so gratifying to be among other people who are doing the same thing. We each need to find a way that we can access this issue, and you apply your gifts to that issue. Using is something that's in story, or some things that are close to my heart. So that's where I started. So in Kohala, we have many old families, and Hawaiian music. Hawaiians have been an oral culture forever. We don't write things down. We pass them through oral traditions, song, chant, and dance as well. If you saw my wife dancing last night. So each family has songs. I mean, everybody has songs in their family, and I call them heirloom songs because they belong to all of us. Those songs speak to a time and place that aren't here anymore. And the reason they're important to each individual family is, I mean, let's face it, if your great grandfather wrote a song for his girlfriend and that song wasn't a great song, she might not have become his wife, which means your grandfather, your mom, her cousins and her sisters and brothers, your brothers and sisters never existed. So in a real way, those songs mattered. And they're there. They're in the families, but they're hard to get because Hawaiian families they've gone through a lot. And Kohala's it's a hard nut to crack. And I'll tell you why. A quick story about Kohala. Kohala is the place that raised. Most Americans don't know much about Hawaiian history, and why would you? But Kohala raised the first great king of our islands, King Kamehameha I. He was raised in Kohala. He was secreted there. There was a prophecy when he was born that he would become a killer of chiefs, that he would be the one to change the power structure and unite the islands, and nobody wanted that. They wanted to keep their power. So the chief that was in charge of that island at the time, man, Alapainui, sent his army to go kill this baby. He sent an entire army. Kamehameha's mom had one guy, a man named Naiole. And Naiole was trusted, not just by Kamehameha's family, but by all the people of Kohala. And so he took this baby to Kohala in the rain and the storms, the night that he did it. And he convinced all the people of Kohala in the different boroughs, the different little areas of Kohala, to help him save this child. And as the armies came through all of Kohala, and they asked these people, grabbing people by the neck and threatening their families. And where's the baby? They're like, baby, I don't know the baby. I don't know what you're talking about, brothers. We were just watching Netflix. There's no baby. And they managed to save this baby. They lied through their teeth. They risked death. And Naiole succeeded because the people believed in Naiole. And Kamehameha and Kohala refused to bow to that pressure. And that's Kohala. It's a rugged, beautiful place. But those people, they don't play. And they're still like that today. So they're serious folks, and they expect serious things when you interface with them. So you don't just show up and say, what's up? You got any songs? Put them in a basket. And then you move on. You need to go and sit and be auditioned. You need to sit with them and explain what you're doing and why and who you are, where your family's from, who's your mom, what school did your dad go to? I'm not sure I know him. You need to earn your way in. And that's what this project was like. You had to earn your way in, and it was worth it. Anything that takes that much work is usually much more gratifying. After I saw your project, so it's really gratifying to do this. But what I had to do is I had to convince these families that I wasn't trying to take advantage of them. That I was trying to preserve these songs. And I hate to say it, but once again, dropping that Library of Congress name, that went a long way, man. That's why I said you guys need to give me like a badge or something that I can take and just go to different places to just flash the badge and get a song or two. Yeah, well, give me something. I'll download it and print it myself if I have to. But it really works. And the reason it works is because, even though, there's issues about Hawaiians and Americans and our independence, all of that aside, we recognize the value that the library holds. We recognize the gravitas of these collections. And when I told them that these songs are going to be preserved in the archives of the Library of Congress, all of a sudden I got entry into the homes and we'll sit down, have some tea, we'll talk some stories. And I got what I was looking for. And what I was looking for was not just each song, but the story behind each song. And I think besides the work itself, and I talked about this in the documentary, and I'm guessing everybody had the same or very similar reactions to what happened to me, is what I thought I was doing was preserving songs and culture and the gifts of Kohala. And I thought I was doing this as a gift to Kohala. And Kohala just ended up giving me more gifts. I feel like the trade wasn't fair. I saved these songs, but in real ways, they energized me. They took me in. They made me family, and I became more of the place, which is hard to do. I always talk about the difference between being in a place and being of a place, because when you're of a place, you have a very different responsibility, at least the way we look at it. When you're of a place, you ask yourself, what gifts do I have that I can apply to what's going on in this place? How can I help? And you don't wait to be asked. You just do. And you don't wait to be recognized for it. You just do it and get out of the way. Doing this in Kohala made me feel more of Kohala. And having not grown up in Kohala, my dad is from Kohala. And we'd go back on the weekends or holidays so he could make sure we knew our family. But to be doing this project really made me what we call pa'a, stuck tight to the place itself and the people. And that's a gift I got thanks to the library and thanks to each individual person that gave me a story and a song. And just to sort of illustrate how much they went from, no, we're not going to give you anything we don't know you, to this is too important not to give to you. There's a woman you saw her in the documentary, if you saw the documentary last night. She's a singer. And she was one of the people who used to sing for one of the composers, the one composer who had passed in my project, who wasn't still alive. Beautiful singer, an old lady who was a retired school teacher. And while the project was going on, at the end of the project, I decided I was going to have all the composers come to my house for a jam session and for them to meet and share each other's songs. I invited this lady. Her name is Audrey. And Audrey was very sweet and said, thank you, but I can't come. Which was very sad because she was so important to the project. She told me she couldn't come because her husband was dying of cancer and he was very late stage, and she was his primary caregiver. And except for an hour or two when she had to go shopping to make food for him, she didn't leave him alone. And So when she told her husband about the project and he said, well, are you going? And she said, no, I'm staying with you. I can't go. Her husband from his bed told her, you have to go. This is too important. I'll wait for you. And so she ended up coming to my house. If you saw the project, the documentary, she had a wonderful time. She sang her songs. She shared herself. And that's the lady who ended up telling me, I hope it's okay, but from now on, you have another auntie. Please call me auntie. We're family now. That's what this project did. You know, I'm not going to tell you how much I spent on the project. Because most of what I spent on there was for Tylenol. But what I got out of this project was more than what is archived in this building and online. What I got from this project is family, is deeper roots to my own home, and just a reminder that this work for all of us is the work that we got to do. I mean, what a better way to spend your life than being of service to your people, your community. The world needs this. All of us need this. So in your own home, that's what you got to do. And yes, that's what we got to do. And I'm not going to take any more time because that's really what I need to say. This is super important. And I just appreciate you folks listening. I appreciate you folks coming to the concert and watching the documentary. And I appreciate all of you who are doing these projects with me because until I came here to see this, I had never been around other people involved in this kind of thing. And it's so heartening to know that we're not alone, each of us. We're all together in this. And God bless all of you. So, mahalo.
Yes. We're going to have a discussion here with our two participants this morning. So Tammy, if you could come up. Microphone. Do you want to sit?
I-
Yeah, I don't know. Yeah, he has it.
I couldn't if sorry.
Is this thing on? It's great. So thank you both. Really beautiful, beautiful work that you're both doing. Thank you so much for doing it and for sharing your stories and your experiences with us. I do have some questions, but I actually want to give you all an opportunity to ask questions first. So anybody have a question of either of these?
It's been an incredible couple of days. Thank you to the library and to the Folk Life Center. But a question I had was, Tammy, it seemed like you had created a sort of trailer, a summation of what you had done. And I found that really, I just latched right onto that. And I think that my question was if everyone did that in their project, if that was part of the deliverable package.
No, I did it because I write grants for other people. No, not for other people. I write grants to other agencies, and I just get put on the spot. It's like, how'd you spend the money? What'd you spend it on? and so I'm kind of used to that. And so I just did it for y'all because, I thought you would want to see that,
It's a powerful tool.
Yeah.
And I would just suggest that in the future that it be part of the deliverable package. That's all.
It's the reason why I did the documentary as well, because I felt like you did it. We should have a tangible product that people can see. It wasn't in the deliverables. I didn't need to do it, but I just felt like it was important. And I agree with you. I think there should be a product like that at the end of the thing. So, because I think a lot more people could access that.
It didn't have.
Yeah.
Everybody's moving so fast. People have so little time.
Yes.
But it moved half the pace.
Yeah.
I would have enjoyed seeing that forever.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think it speaks. It also speaks to the people who are leading the projects, right? To actually have the skill, the documentary skill and editing skill to be able to put something like that together. But yeah, I think I mean, some of the rest of you in the room, some of you did do something like that, I believe, but yeah. Any other question? Yeah. Back there.
Hi. As a fellow Louisianan, I really appreciate the struggle of the elderberry plant. I struggle with that in my garden all the time. But one of the things that stood out to me in the presentations this morning is the presence of landscapes and the impact on the landscape and wildlife from maybe events of climate change. Is How are your communities adapting to these climate change events that are happening? I know in Louisiana this past January we had temperatures down to 4 degrees, which was crazy, and a snowstorm that completely blanketed our gardens, and all of our Laotian immigrants had to bring all of their tropical plants indoors, and we're trying to and everyone's sort of rushing to buy new culinary plants, but most of the crops have sort of died off, so we're sort of in this sort of limbo with our with our current culinary practices until we could get all of our plants back in action. So how are your communities affected by climate change, and what are they doing to begin adapting? And in terms of music, are we singing or making songs about snow in Hawaii? I don't know if it happens there. Snow hola aloha, something.
Wow.
Might be a good holiday song. I don't know.
Well, I guess I'll go first since she teased me for. Thank you, Panat. I appreciate the question. I think, like I said, watching your presentation, we have all the same issues, even if they might be rendered differently. Climate change, obviously, living in islands is an issue. We live on Kohala Mountain, my wife and I, and that used to be covered in a mesic forest, and it was beautiful. That forest is no more. We live right next to a river that used to run all the time, and that river doesn't run. It rarely runs. All the plants in that area, the riparian corridor along the riverbanks, they're not native anymore. When we do have water on the mountain, when we do have rain events and cloud events, those plants don't hold the water like our native plants did. Our plants knew what to do. They had evolved for thousands of years without any kind of interruption, and they knew what they needed to do. They didn't evolve with defenses against the invasive plants that we see now, just like our animals. So our challenges involve things like reforestation. My wife and I are very involved in reforestation efforts. But even that, we're trying to do in saving our place. For us, the issue is, can we save our place in a way that we still recognize our place? Is it a Hawaiian way to do that? There are people involved in reforestation, for instance, and they're doing it in a way that's more about carbon sequestration, which is great. We need carbon sequestration. We need that kind of idea. But coming to Hawaii and planting plants that are quick growing, that have no business being there, in straight rows that don't resemble a forest or an ecosystem at all, it's just insanity. What is the point of that? We could use that same land, that same effort, to grow the plants that are supposed to be there in the ways that they're supposed to be there, in community with the other plants. Because most of the forest is underground. Most of the forest is in the roots and the cilia and the mycelia that are talking to each other. And so that these plants are, in a real way, a community. And so the challenge is, how do we get people to recognize the importance of that sort of thing, so that we need to save this place? There's a real urgency around climate change and our islands disappearing. We need to save it in a way that it doesn't end up looking unrecognizable with whatever's left. And making people understand that, and making people understand how important that work is, and how important funding that work is, because let's face it, everything takes money. We got labor, we got manpower, we have people who recognize the importance, that are willing to do the work. We just need somebody to give us the resources, and having to ask for that in our own home is really frustrating, because this is what should have been there all along. The fact that we got to come to other people and ask them to help us, to give us the resources to do that, is just crazy. We're growing plants in our grow house. We have those starts. We educate people and allow people to take those plants home and plant them in what we call pono ways that are appropriate to the culture and the place. But we can only do so much. We just need more people to help, and we need more people to recognize the importance. So yeah, it's a real deal in our place, and it is just like what you guys are going through, and just rendered in slightly different ways. We're all in the same boat.
We when we were removed from the territory where, in Louisiana and Mississippi, our plants were removed as well because people came in, the settlers who came in planted cotton fields and sugar cane and things like that. And there were railroad tracks that obliterated large landscapes of native plants. And so in our way of thinking, bringing our culture back home is also bringing our plants back home. As they come home, the parts of the culture that we're missing also come home. So it's really even bigger than just making sure the plants have a space, which is huge enough. It's like making room again for the culture, for the people of the area, recognizing that they belong to not only us, but also them, not only them, but also us. We have 1,000 square foot garden that we built that I started 20 years ago. She's 20 years old this year at the University of Southern Mississippi, that is a native plant garden that is built like a forest. So we used to tend the forest. So basically the idea is to get these forest areas back. That's what allows deer, squirrels, these animals to, be able to feed here, run there, feed there, run there, feed there. So the idea is that we don't just need to plant plants. We need to reforest areas, even like half of your yard, even like a quarter of your yard can be reforested, where you have these plants growing together. Plants are the biggest teachers in the world. Think about the diversity in plants that live together, one with another, like every kind of specialization you can imagine. And they're right there next to one another, surviving and thriving. They can teach us about that. So we need them for those reasons and many, many more. Yeah, like you're saying. Yeah. And we're doing that. I'm doing that. I'm saving seeds from down the bayou because we want their genetic material, just like they want their genetic material, just like we want our genetic material to go on and on into the 7th generation. They want the same. So we take their seeds. If we know a place is going to be wiped out, why don't we go into the forest and let the seed collectors have a go? Why don't we go into the forest and let the medicine people have a go? If it has to be wiped out, there are ways to do that that are respectful of the plant so that the plant can continue on and we can continue on too.
You should move to Hawaii, but I think they need you where you are. But you brought up another good point before we walk away from Fanat's point, which is that the way you're talking is just like we talk about our plants. The idea that we are not above the plants, that we're not separate, we're not special, we're just another organism, and they have at least as much right to be there as we do. And if we're in a position where we have to make those decisions, then we should make those decisions based on what is best for all of us, including them, and not we shouldn't be asking why we should save that plant because what good is it to us? What medicinal value or what kind of commercial value does it have for us? Why should that even be an issue? The plant doesn't ask that about us before it swallows us up. And I'm glad you said that. Thank you.
Yeah, a lot to learn about that interrelationship and maintaining that interrelationship. Yeah, yeah.
Another question, yeah.
Hi, I just first want to just express my gratitude to both of you for the inspiring, edifying sharing you did. And what I would like to just raise as a thought here is, this is about community collections, but you could just as easily name it community connections. It strikes me that this kind of work is, in a sense, an art form in itself. in that it is a way for people in an ensemble to collectively reflect and share and tell a story. And so thank you for that. I guess my question is related to what you were saying, Boots, that the gifts you received are sort of overwhelming almost. And I think we can feel that gifts they're almost like a burden when we have been so blessed with to be able to receive them. I wanted to ask both of you, like, having gone through this experience, this project, you probably both received so much and it's filled your hearts. What are the things that you have inklings of, or maybe even more, of what's next? What are the ways that these gifts can flow through you and in service to whatever it is, whatever spirit, whatever value came from the work and your position within something sacred?
Thank you. Thank you for the question. I can think of at least two ways. The first way is, because music is close to my heart as story is to just do that, to continue playing those songs and telling those stories and sharing that with as many people as we can. Every time we sing a song from one of those folks are alive. Those songs remind them, they wake them up and let them know that they're not gone, they're not forgotten. They honor their families, and the young kids in those families will recognize that their grandparents, their great grandparents had something special, and they could be proud of that. The other thing is that in doing the project, like you mentioned, a burden. I don't know that I would call it a burden. I would say that there's a responsibility, or what we call in Hawaii, a kuleana. Responsibility is the closest English word, but it doesn't really encapsulate. But it's a feeling that being given this gift means you have to do something with that gift, as you're referencing. Yeah. So we need to figure out ways to share those stories and those gifts with the rest of the world. In my case, I like to start with Hawaii because we have so many problems, and especially being so inundated by Western culture, our children have forgotten in a lot of cases who they are. We talked about the navigation last night. One of the guys in the band is a master navigator in the canoe. We had to be taught. We had to be retaught. It was embarrassing. We had to be retaught our own skills of navigating the world on these sailing canoes by other Pacific Island cultures who still remembered. And it's a little bit humiliating to think that we had to ask our brothers and sisters to share that with us again. So in real ways, I can start at home and share what I have. Hopefully that inspires other people, as other people have inspired me to share these gifts. I wasn't the first. Other people inspired me. There was a musician named Eddie Kamai, very famous musician in Hawaii, years ago when I was a kid. He and his wife took it upon themselves to go find songs and stories and say them. As a child, I saw these documentaries on public television. And I was thinking, how come I don't know about this? Why isn't anybody telling me about these folks, these amazing people? And when that man died, I wondered who was going to take up the mantle and who was going to tell those stories, who was going to keep finding these gems. And I didn't see anybody doing it, and I didn't think that I could do it. I mean, I'm just not a regular Hawaiian guy. I don't know how to get a film crew and write grants and all that stuff. But I had to, because nobody was, right? And thank God my wife can write grants and she could help me. She's my businessman. I fired her as a business manager 10 times. And then I hire her within a half an hour again, because I'm not that stupid. But it had to be done. And so you can't just keep waiting for someone else to do it. The situation is dire. I can see everybody nodding. We all in this room know the situation is dire wherever we are. And so you just start, whatever that means. And you trust that you'll get the gifts along the way. You'll figure it out. You'll learn how. We all have I can tell from the presentations I've already heard, we all figure it out. We all just get what we need. In Hawaii, we believe that if we say it out loud, And we talk about that work. The ancestors will recognize and they'll move us where we need to be. They'll get us the gifts that we need. So
How about you, Tammy? What's next for you?
So we in 2023, probably because we were successful with this grant and had some you know, proud of ourselves, we applied for a grant we were a mound building people who built these mounds to gather communities together you know, celebrate and have ceremony. And our people have been told their whole lives that, you know, they're savages. We have people whose last name is Savage still. So they've been told that, and the kids have been told that. And that's, you know, a legacy that we did the doing, and now we need to do the undoing. And so we got a grant to build, probably because we got this grant and they saw the Library of Congress on there. We got a grant to build a mound, and we built it in New Orleans on Claiborne Avenue, near Claiborne Avenue. And we did that so that we could undo the doing. You know, mound building is difficult. Those mounds last longer than the New Orleans levees. Our kids need to know that. They're built in the shape, some of them, of the star system, the constellation Orion, because we needed to stay in connection with Orion because we're star people. And we're going to go back there one day. They were laid out in that shape. Our kids don't know that we had architects and lawyers and doctors and, you know, medicine people and the construction workers who built the mound. Our kids need to know who they come from and that they're star people. And who the hell's going to stop a star person from doing whatever they need to do, right? Right. And so that's what we've been doing. We've been building on this to do the next thing, to see the next thing. Yeah.
That's beautiful. That's great. So it's time for lunch. But what I'd like us to do, there's so much wisdom in what you all have shared and what the others of you shared earlier. I would love us to go into lunch with the question, what can the Library of Congress learn from what you have done? So think about that, and maybe we can have conversations about that over lunch. Okay, thank you.
Big thanks to Amy Skillman for moderating this, and Tammy and Boots, Mahalo.